Hi, everybody. This is Addison Shonland, and it's May the 7th, and I'm here with my growingly better friends from India, Vinny Longani and Nitin Sarin from Sarin Co, the premier aviation law firm in India, I'm advised, by them, of course.
Thank you.
um,
How are you?
nice,
Great to be
nice,
back.
nice to see you guys again. You both look well, which
Thank you.
these days is something of a miracle in India.
Yes.
Gentlemen, what is going on? How do we understand this craziness that from nowhere it was an explosion in infection rates?
Yes. I mean, I think it's definitely been a crazy wave that suddenly hit India. We had reached levels which were fairly low. We were doing pretty well, uh, you know, earlier this year. And I think that led to a lot of us being very lax about precautions, about socially distancing, etc. And that with, of course, with a number of other factors have led to this huge explosion of COVID cases. And in the first round, we did have, we lost a lot of people who had a lot of comorbidities. But in this round, unfortunately, we've lost people from every age group. So it's not, we've had the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, everyone affected by this. India is a country of almost 1.4 billion people. Controlling those number of people is really difficult, especially when your literacy rate is fairly low and when you're balancing daily wages on one hand and socially distancing on the other. That's my take.
Is there another version of the a variant of the disease that hit India?
I believe we have two double variants, if I'm not mistaken. So we have the largest circulating variant was the UK variant, which has then further mutated into two different. Again, I'm not sure, but that's what I read in one article. But there's definitely another strain going around, which is supposed to be far more contagious and far more lethal than as previously expected. So that's resulting in other countries imposing restrictions on us, which we will discuss shortly.
Vaccine rates. What is India doing about trying to vaccinate? I mean, the only example I guess we could look at here is China because of the volume of people. It's the only comparable place that we could turn to and see how could that be done. What is the plan for India to try and get the population vaccinated?
Well, I'm going to let Vin take that one, but I would also like to highlight, like I did the last time, China reported only 80,000 cases. We have reached, probably 10 times that, or if not more. So I really don't know where the problem lies, where we've messed up. But I'm going to leave this answer to Vin to answer, because we are in the midst, the two of us are in the midst of, registering for our second dose. So we're pretty much up there and attuned to what's happening as far as the vaccine goes.
Yeah, I mean, we started by vaccinating frontline workers and healthcare workers like everybody else in the world. And then we opened it up to people above a certain age. It was 60 plus. And then it was brought down to people slowly to people above the age of 45. And now we've got this very strange sort of system where anybody above the age of 45, their vaccinations will be taken care of by the center, which is the federal government, if I was to draw a parallel between the US and India. And then anybody else below the age of 45 and above the age of 18, their vaccinations, you either go to a private hospital and you pay for your vaccination, or you get your vaccination out of an allocation which has come from the relative state government. And now state governments are procuring vaccinations from the same vaccine makers that the central government is getting it from. So I'm not sure if this is the right way or the wrong way of doing it, but the vaccination drive over the last couple of days has in actual fact slowed down. So, and it's a known fact that the drive would not pick up anytime before July or August, which is when the vaccine makers can provide more than the 3 million odd doses that we're getting on a daily basis. I mean, that might sound like a lot for a small country, but for us, it's not a lot at all.
Right.
So people seem to be struggling.
Just to give you an example, I'm below the age of 45. I cannot register. You know, if there are only X amount of slots available for me. But if I'm above 45, I've got hundreds and hundreds of options. So it just, we're getting the same vaccine and the same dose. So it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make common sense.
It seems strange that around the world, government public policy or public policy generally about the vaccination has been almost uniformly poor.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and look at us. We gave away millions of vaccine doses because our government thought COVID had pretty much been, kept in check consistently. So, I mean, I think it was a great move, provided, I mean, it showed our benevolence as a country and the fact that, we were willing to share all those doses with the rest of the world. I mean, India exported vaccines to 70 plus countries. So it was a great thing to do. But I guess at that point in time, there was this confidence that we got COVID under control. And in hindsight, I mean, at least in my opinion, we should have, just like the US probably, if I was to again draw a parallel, we should have used all those doses to vaccinate our people first. But then I guess what is done is water under the bridge. So there's not much that we can do about it.
Right. Obviously, we're sort of walking down a path here to a destination, which is the impact on the greater economy by way of commercial aviation.
Mm-hmm.
Right at the beginning of the pandemic, I had a very nice conversation with the CEO of the Royal Aeronautical Society in England. And he made a very interesting statement to me. He said, what people are now discovering is that there is this thin golden thread that runs through all the economy of not just countries, but the world, called aviation and travel, that stitches us all together, which is obviously how the pandemic got exported around the world so quickly. But at the same time, there's an economic thread that keeps the world going in so many ways. And just today, Reuters put out the story, the title is Analysis, Indian Airlines Risk Consolidation, Plane Repossessions Amid COVID-19 Surge. So we'll be talking about the surge, and obviously must be incredibly frustrating for you because you're in the midst of this thing where a lot of other countries look like they've peaked and they now seem to be coming down the other side of the hill, and you guys have hit like a tsunami. And the impact on the industry, the commercial aviation industry in India, which already was charging too little for flights. Gents, what happens now?
Well, I mean, if Nitin will permit me, I'll just put out some numbers there to give you some perspective. So we were averaging about 350 odd thousand domestic passengers a day pre-COVID. I mean, we obviously shut down all our flights when we had that, well, I wouldn't call it brutal, but like the world's toughest lockdown, which was introduced in India last year. And, airlines didn't fly for about 3 months. And then finally, slowly, as the numbers came down, everybody started flying again. And we'd reached 300,000 passengers a day in March. So we were doing really well to going back to what, I mean, had it not been for the second wave, Indian Airlines would have had a bumper summer, which is one of the 2 profitable quarters for Indian Airlines. But as of yesterday, we had about 72,000 passengers take to the skies in India. So you can see the kind of impact this wave has had on air travel. And mind you, air travel is still the preferred way to get around India because, I mean, people, I mean, given the second wave too, I mean, you would prefer to take a flight compared to a train or a bus because, COVID protocols and hygiene protocols are maintained best at airports and on board an airplane.
Right.
So, this just goes to show the kind of impact that the pandemic, the second wave has had. And And I'll be honest, even before COVID, our airlines were continuously struggling. There's just consistently been one profitable airline in India, and everybody else either relies on their promoters to kind of fund the losses, or I mean, it's just, you get by literally on a day-to-day basis, if not on a weekly basis. And given the pandemic, we're at that situation where two private airlines, where promoters are very reluctant to infuse capital, are literally, surviving on a day-to-day basis. I mean, they've got bills which haven't been paid. It is widely reported that lessors haven't been paid. There were deferrals from the last crisis, which might be due. And I guess I'd let Nitin elaborate a little bit more on that. So the situation is fairly critical.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, I think it's a misnomer to say this is the second wave. I think this is the second, third, and fourth wave put together. I think it's been so large that the scale is incredible, and we're not going to get out of this for at least a couple of more months. What that means for airlines is it's a very, very difficult time. I know that the first wave caused a lot of ruckus amongst them, but they had a lot of sympathy, amongst the financing community. The second term around, I don't think, people, financiers and lessors are going to be that lenient, because they've had enough. When you can place an aircraft somewhere else and get paid, half of what you were getting paid in India, at least you're getting paid, because these guys are, they're not getting anything at the moment. So it's a big problem. And I think the certain airlines in our country which will probably not make it through this, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, and also to add to that very quickly, the fact of the matter is, a lessor, for example, you've got to be able to convince your creditors. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a lessor also, just any creditors, that you have a viable business plan, or how do you plan to shore up cash over the next quarter or 6 months or whatever it is. So, any creditor who's got a sizable interest or an amount outstanding would want to look at a plan. Now, at this point in time, we're averaging 400,000 COVID cases a day. I mean, all the planning literally has gone out of the window. We have lockdowns which are being imposed across the country. Delhi's had one for 3 weeks now, probably going to be extended. You need an RT-PCR test to go anywhere in the country. People aren't traveling. I mean, it's so sad that everybody in this country knows someone who's got COVID, and also knows someone, if not directly in their family or close friend circle, who's passed away because of COVID. And I mean, there's just lack of basic drugs, oxygen, medical oxygen, beds in hospitals. I mean, I can tell you for a fact, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was 10 days ago, I mean, you're not supposed to venture out because there's a lockdown, but you're allowed to step out in case you need medicines. And an aunt of mine needed some medicines in a different part of the city. I couldn't get paracetamol in 8 pharmacies in Delhi. And I live in the capital of the world's largest democracy. Imagine what it must be like in smaller towns where you have one pharmacy for the whole village. So, the crisis is extreme. I mean, the magnitude of this, like Nitin said, it's multiple waves put together. I don't think anybody abroad can realize what's happening here.
It's going to make us change, Addison. Another statistic was that we have a total of 95,000 ICU beds in the country. 95,000 for 1.4 billion people.
Yeah.
That's an
interesting interesting statistic, because we had something similar in New York City at the beginning of the crisis. They also ran out of beds. But the thing is that prior to this pandemic, the supply, the ICU supply was okay. Right? I mean, you don't plan for a pandemic. How do you plan for a pandemic?
No. And the other issue actually is, I don't know if it's the same in any other city in the world or any other country. 80% of our healthcare system it's privatized. So these are private hospitals who obviously have a profit motive. Not necessarily all of them, but most of them. So if you don't have insurance, or if you can't afford private healthcare, where are you supposed to go? I mean, the common man who does not have insurance or who can't afford private care, you'll go to a government hospital. Government hospitals are inundated on an average day. They are inundated.
Yeah, and
So I
it's,
mean,
I think to Addison also to answer your question, how do you plan for this? You can't plan for this. You can just, you have to just speculate, and it's as Vin is saying, government hospitals are essentially free. They're free for anyone who is below a certain income level, who doesn't pay tax. If Vin or I go to a government institute, we have to pay because we are taxpayers. So
Right.
it is really bizarre sort of setup. And I talk to staff who work in our office who can't afford major things in life, and who require to go to government hospitals. I've heard stories of them going and lining up at 3:30 in the morning just to get their free consultation. That's how long the lines are. Not COVID related, but
3:30 in the morning.
yes, for a 9 a.m. You know, doctors, not even an appointment. You just go stand in line and you wait for the doctor to come, and you wait for your turn. That is the severity of our country. And for the first time in my life, I'll say it very honestly on a public forum. I've honestly thought of where else in the world can I live? I worry for my family. I'm not an old generation person. I don't have contacts. I've been a very frank sort of person throughout my life. I've never, rubbed shoulders with influential people. I wouldn't be able to get an ICU bed should I have fallen sick, should I fall sick today. So that scares me.
Wow.
And I mean, just to sort of link what Nitin said to why, I mean, we're a country of huge contrasts. Yes, somebody might have to stand at 3:30 in the morning for a consultation, but to link that to aviation, for the larger aviation community, that's an opportunity because our fares are so cheap. He might not be able to get a consultation, but if he might want to fly, even if he flies once a year, that's a huge number considering we are 1.3 billion people. You see what I mean? I mean, the contrasts are huge, but that's where the opportunity is also. I mean, and that's for everybody, not just the airlines, but also like ancillary service providers like our firm. I mean, we specialize in aircraft leasing and finance. So, and that's possibly also why the pandemic has impacted the aviation industry so much. I mean, nobody's really flying. What do you do when your near and dear ones are at the risk of getting infected and you got to provide medicines or care for them? So travel takes a backseat. So it's extremely concerning, but I guess it is what it is.
It's interesting. I watch the news. I read. I would like to think that I'm at least as informed as maybe above average informed. I am gobsmacked with what you guys have just told me.
That's the fact. It's just, I mean, it's just we're being very candid and it's just honest stuff that we've seen. I mean, like I said, I couldn't get the day I couldn't find paracetamol in 6 or 8 or how many ever pharmacies that was, that is when I actually called Nitin and I said, listen, it is really bad in Delhi because, and I'm concerned actually.
I won't give specifics, and my parents didn't pay for it, but they were flown out on a Global 6000 from New Delhi to California, just to get to a safer place, because we just didn't want them here. And again,
that's amazing. Nitin, if you think about that from an India perspective, that it was, you thought California was safer.
Exactly.
It's not safer. By American standards, it's not necessarily safer.
Exactly. But where I'm sitting right now, less than 10 meters this way and less than 10 meters this way, there are positive COVID patients. 5 meters this way, opposite to where I'm sitting, this house had 5 COVID positive people. You leave one property next to me, the whole house has COVID. They refuse to quarantine. There's two family members are COVID positive. The rest are all horse riding and they're out.
What?
Yeah, that's how responsible we're being about this, and that's the scary part.
Well, then you're right to move your parents out the country. You don't want elderly people don't need to have more risk.
Absolutely. And I mean, my brother lives there, so why not? They should just go there and camp out for as long as it takes. You know, at least you've got the distance. You don't have.
It's interesting. I'm based in Maryland, and now it's basically if you need a shot, there's no line.
Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, I can tell you in the afternoon, to book a shot for a friend, this is her first jab. We were literally on the computer for an hour, just finding a place somewhere in Delhi or in the suburbs where there was a shot available. And we finally got one for her, which is a rarity in itself. That too, she lives in the suburbs. She's going to come into the city on the 10th, 9 o'clock in the morning, and let's hope it doesn't get cancelled. Because, even once you booked an appointment.
If she was above 45, she could walk in today and get a shot.
Yes, that's true. So, there are huge anomalies in our vaccination drive, and some of it doesn't make any sense. But then who are we to even comment on it? Because I'm not taking sides here, but the people in power have such a big problem at hand. I mean, yes, this is when your management experience comes to the fore, and but I guess what are they supposed to do? It's just they're cornered from every side.
It's not easy. It's
not easy at all. How do you manage 400,000 positive COVID cases a day? How do you manage that?
New cases.
New cases, yes, new cases.
And they're saying for every one positive, the actual number is 70 times more. So we're looking at 400,000 into 70 is the actual number in the country happening. So we've crossed 1.5 million a day. That's what.
Because a lot of people just don't test. These are people who are actually getting tests. A lot of people just don't get tests done. They're just at home. They feel sick. Unless and until they feel really sick, will they go to a hospital? And now it's so bad that people are actually getting nurses, if they can get hold of one, home and setting up ICUs at home because, the hospitals are just full. I mean, I don't even know if I should be saying this. A family friend of ours was in an ambulance for 7 hours through the night in Delhi, didn't find a hospital, and he died at 7 o'clock in the morning in an ambulance. It's just horrible.
Wow.
I mean, I don't even know. And this is one story. There are thousands of such stories across the country. I don't even know if one should be outraged. I'm full of rage, but what is one to do?
At least I've blocked it out of my mind. There's no point. I don't go to social media. I don't go anywhere because I can't help with it. The best is to just sit, and work, which thankfully Vin and I do very diligently.
Yeah. All we do is work, literally. And that's keeping us sane, though. So we're very glad and fortunate.
Wow, guys. This is.
I'm sorry for hijacking your show. We haven't talked.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if we certainly wandered down a path here, but it circles back to not just aviation, but to the general economy.
Yeah.
And this is shocking. I mean, we are so far into this pandemic, and you would have thought lessons learned around the world could be applied. And then this thing just came from my perspective, just this tsunami hit India, of all places.
Yeah. It's literally that. It is literally that. And to a large extent, when Europe was going through their second wave and people were preparing for it, I mean, everybody in India seemed to think that we just conquered this thing and as if it'll never come back. And this was sometime at the end of February when there was a small spike in cases. Nobody paid heed at that point in time. Yeah. And well, look at where we are now.
I think it's very easy to blame our political parties. I think, to be very honest, both major political parties failed at this. The major reason why this has really exploded is this incompetence of the general public. I remember in February, I went for a friend's anniversary in a club sort of place. It's a restaurant/club, and I was the only person wearing a mask there. And vaccination has not started, for the general public as of now. There's a band playing. There are, waiters serving drinks and snacks. No one's wearing masks. my two best friends whose anniversary it was weren't wearing masks. Ironically, they've got COVID now. So it's just this Indian, and I say it because I'm an Indian, and I'm entitled to criticize myself and my fellow countrymen. We just take things too lightly. We take things too lightly, and we laugh at people who are worried about their near and dear ones. I've had so many friends say, "Oh, take off your mask. Come on, nothing happens. Take off your mask." It's literally just this strange.
This thing isn't a joke.
No, it's not.
Well, definitely isn't. When you see people dying, I mean, our crematoriums have been busy 24/7 trying to cremate people. So it's not a joke anymore. I mean, it's real. Like I said, all of us know someone who's got COVID, and all of us know someone whose life has been lost due to COVID. So, I mean, the official numbers say 4,000 odd people are dying due to COVID a day in India. But I think the real numbers are probably 5 times that, if not more, because a lot of these things just don't get reported. So, I mean, we thank our stars every day that we don't have to step out for work. We can be indoors and we do our work, and we don't really step out unless and until we really have to. And when we do, we've got double masks on. But I guess we've followed COVID protocols for the past 1 year. And I mean, Nitin hasn't got it.
Even the deaths reporting, there's lots of people are saying the government is underreporting, but there's also a large, the Indian psyche has a very big COVID shame, sort of thing that we mustn't tell people that our loved one died because of COVID. It's just looked down upon. That people won't come to the funeral. People will treat us differently, etc. So it's just it's a very intrinsic Indian attitude, which.
Yes. Well, let's just on that note, let's just change this to happier things that are happening in the US. I mean, I'm just happy, even though it's like a sharp contrast to what we're seeing here. Delta is going to be hiring pilots again, apparently in June. 100% of pre-COVID capacity is back. So it's nice to see at least things getting back to normal somewhere in the world.
I think that it's pretty clear that there is an extraordinary high correlation between vaccination rates and economic recovery. I think that's pretty clear. And I'm still reeling from what you guys have shared. Wow. Well, I want you guys, we've been going here for much longer than I was thinking, but that's okay. I love talking to you guys, as you know. Well, I guess we like shooting the breeze once a month. Please stay healthy, my friends.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
And it's the weekend, so let's all power down a little and relax.
TGIF.
Yeah. But Nitin says TGIF as if we have the weekend off. We work all 7 days. So, I mean, he'll have a couple of hours off, but then he'll be back to work tomorrow morning.
It seems like the safest place is your desk.
Definitely. I live at my desk.
One sanitizer here.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. I've got mine.
One mask.
And mask. So this is where I live. So my desk is the safest place, definitely.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. As always, please stay healthy and stay safe, and we'll chat soon, I hope.
Thank you
very much.
We'll see you in a month's time. Bye-bye.